asked me not to go upstairs, that the twins were taken care of, but yet in my heart it was the right thing. You had big sores on your bottom, same as your sister. The smell was like you hadn't been changed in a week. The conditions were terrible for a child to even be in. You were dirty. So I cleaned you, cleaned Jill, got everything cleaned up. I got you fresh milk, cleaned your bottles out. And when I gave you the milk, it was like you were shocked. I mean, you were so hungry.
Hi, welcome back to the Fronczak Files. I'm Paul Fronczak.
And I'm Tracey Hastings.
Ready for another episode in this crazy journey?
I am ready. We have a great episode ready today for our listeners. We got a great guest. We do. We have a phenomenal guest. I think everybody is going to be really interested in what she has to say.
I mean, compared to last week's episode, right? So last week, I learned that my true identity, with the help of C.C. Moore and her team of genealogists, I learned that I was actually Jack Thomas Rosenthal, born in Atlantic City on October 27th, 1963. My parents were Gilbert Rosenthal and Marie Duncan. I had two older sisters and a younger brother. I didn't know any of this until just recently from talking with Cece and how I found out. Then on August 15th, 2019, I received a message through my website from a woman named Susan Woolard. And the story she has to tell today is going to blow your mind. She was actually a babysitter back in 1965 in Atlantic City. And she got to babysit the Rosenthal kids. Tracey, do you want to set the scene?
Well, this takes us back to the spring of 1965 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Susan's a young teenage girl living in Pitney Village and has a regular babysitting gig with the people that live next door to you and your family. And one day, out of nowhere, she's asked to babysit for the Rosenthal kids.
And that's where it picks up.
And that's where we're going to pick up with her.
Susan, thank you for joining us. I know it's you're way out in Florida, and it's a long transmission for you, but we greatly appreciate you being here. Tracey, say hi to Susan.
Good morning, Susan. It's nice to meet you.
Good morning, Tracey. Nice to meet you as well.
Susan, do you want to start by telling us how you heard about Jack's case 5 years ago, was it?
Yes, I was watching television and I saw a show come on, and it flashed a picture of a baby. And when it flashed the picture of the baby, I recognized this child. So I listened to the show. I called the FBI because they had a number, and I left them a message telling them that I think I know this baby. They never got back to me, so I found Jack, his blog, and I emailed. I guess basically I don't know much about blogs, but I emailed, and they contacted me. And I guess I had enough information. The producer came down to Fort Myers to see me, and we went over all the details, and I explained who I was, how I met Jack and Jill, and I suppose a lot of the things matched up to what they already knew, and some things they didn't know. So it all started when Marie asked me to babysit. I was babysitting next door, and Marie asked me to babysit. It was an overnight babysitting job, and I said that would be fine. She had two beautiful little girls. They were all dressed in cute little dresses and everything, and I went there to babysit, and Marie said to me that I didn't have to worry about the twins. They were upstairs. They were taken care of. I just had to watch the two little girls downstairs, and they could do what they want. They could eat what they want, and they could sleep downstairs if they wanted. So I thought that was kind of odd when they left. I called my sister and had her come over and watch the two little girls, and I went upstairs. And that's when the horror began. because those babies were in such bad condition. I was horrified.
First of all, how did you come to meet Marie? What was the situation? Can you set the scene of what things were, how old you were, and how things were, like the housing and things like that?
This happened before my 15th birthday. I was 14, turning 15 shortly, because I turned 15 in May.
A freshman in high school, going to be a sophomore?
Yeah, I was a freshman. And my sister was 8th grade. We lived in Pitney Village. It was low-income housing, and a lot of us just babysat or did odd jobs. The times were different back then, in the 50s and 60s. So children pretty much did what they were told. And a lot of us worked, babysitting, taking out trash for people, mowing lawns, that sort of thing. But I was babysitting. I had a regular babysitting job with the Pilegis, which was right next door to Marie and Gilbert. And like I said, Marie came out and asked me if I would babysit the twins. And I said, yes, I would. The neighborhood was mostly Italian. It was a good mix, but it was primarily Italian neighborhood. And it was mafia run. The neighborhood was. Gilbert was a very imposing man. I was afraid of him. I don't know why. It was just one of those things where the way he held himself, I suppose, and out of respect, because back then children respected every adult. We didn't talk back. We did what we were told. There wasn't a lot that we could do. We didn't have a voice back then. But it was a good neighborhood. Everybody helped each other out for the most part, and doors were never locked. You could just walk into a neighbor's home. We never locked doors. We never locked cars, if we had cars.
Yeah, I think our listeners are gonna not really understand a lot of that because society looks so different today.
So, Susan, when you said that Marie asked you to babysit, how did that transpire?
Well, I was coming out of babysitting. I babysat overnight for the Pilegis. And when I came out, then Marie was walking out at the same time, and she had asked me on the spot because she was outside with the girls. And she asked me if I would mind babysitting. And I said, no, that would be fine. I had never met her before. I'd seen her around, but I'd never actually met her or Gilbert. The Pilegis were, like the way the houses were situated, they were two doors next to each other. So Pilegis lived in the one door, and then your parents in the other door.
So did they share a wall inside the house?
Yes, and that's where the staircases went up.
Okay.
In fact, your house, your townhouse, was laid out exactly like mine was. Where your room was, I had the same exact room in the same position in another building.
Okay, so it's easy for you to remember everything because
Yes.
you had the same house layout. Oh, that's great. That really helps with the memory, right?
Oh, definitely. At my age, yes, definitely. But I remember going up the stairs and walking into your room, which is in the same place my room was. And the layout was the same, except the furniture was different. But when I walked in that room and saw those babies, like I said, I saw Jack first. When I walked in, I saw Jack first, because his crib was facing the door. And Jill's crib was to the right in the corner. They were opposite corners, which I didn't understand why they separated them into opposite corners of the room. But Jack had a black eye.
What time of year would you say this was, Susan?
Spring, because my birthday's in May, and this was shortly before my 15th birthday.
May of 65. Okay.
Okay, so we're building a nice timeline here. When you first met, when you talked to Marie and she asked you to babysit, what was your initial feeling about her?
I wasn't afraid of her or anything. She was very quiet. I thought she might be pregnant, but I wasn't sure because she had like a little pot belly. She was dressed very nice. She had a dress on, which back in those days, most women wore dresses. She was good with the girls. She was very good with the girls. She didn't say a whole lot other than asking me to babysit.
When they asked you to babysit, they said they were going out for the evening, for the whole night, and now you think that Marie was pregnant, and you think they were going out drinking, right?
I didn't really know where they were going. I just know that I thought she smelled like liquor when she came back.
All right, so hold that thought for a minute. And now, so after you decided, yes, I can babysit your two daughters, so you show up and they invite you in, and what happened?
Well, when I came, they invited me in, and Marie said that told me that the girls could just do what they wanted to do. They could have whatever they wanted to eat. That they would be back the next day. She said I didn't have to worry about the twins. They were all taken care of. They were upstairs, which was a shock to me because I didn't even know she had twins. All I ever saw was the two little girls. I had no idea she had two more children. So when they left, and I called my sister to come help me out because I could not leave the babies upstairs unattended. And I broke a rule for sure because when they returned, they were not happy with me.
What's the reason they were upset? They asked you to not do what?
They asked me not to go upstairs, that the twins were taken care of, and there was no need for me to go upstairs. So when they returned, they were really angry with me because I told them that I had gone up and I had changed the babies and taken care of the babies. And that Gilbert scared me because he had a look about him, that would terrify any 14-year-old kid. But I knew I had done the wrong thing, but yet in my heart it was the right thing.
All right, so when you say that he had a terrifying look about him, what does that mean? Because that's a pretty intense statement.
It was, I don't know how to explain. You know how, like, if you're a child, your father gets really, really angry. I mean, to the point where it scares you. That's what he did. It scared me.
Did he say anything to you, Susan, that upset you?
No, other than I should never have done what I did and told me to leave. But the point being that I was a 14-year-old kid and I was scared because just the look on his face, I knew I had done something wrong. And any kid is afraid to get in trouble back in those days. I mean, you're 14, you get in trouble, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's so ironic because they were the ones doing something incredibly wrong. And what you did was extremely right. You helped these two children that were obviously in distress.
Yes, I did help them. But, sometimes I blame myself for not doing more.
You can't do that. I mean, take me through this really slowly because this is a lot of information and it's really intense. When you first walked in the house, did you hear the twins crying, or how did you know there were twins upstairs? And as you were walking up the stairs after they left, what were you feeling walking up those stairs, knowing that there might be kids upstairs?
Well, when I walked in, and I was with the girls first before I called my sister, I didn't hear anything. I heard no children, no crying, nothing. Not the normal thing that you hear with a baby. When I called my sister and then I went upstairs and walked in that room, those babies were so scared, so terrified that they backed into the corners of their cribs. I mean, when I was walking up the stairs, I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't. Because I babysat on a regular basis for other people. And I never ran across anything like this. So really, I didn't know what to expect. And they were so quiet. Even when I walked in the room, they didn't react.
What's the first thing you did when you saw us in the crib, separated, acting very strangely?
Well, when I walked in the room, the first one I saw was you. So I approached your crib first. And you were backed in the corner. You had a black eye. And all I could do was talk softly to you and reach out my hand and try to touch you. But you were cowering in the corner of your crib. There was a bottle of milk all curdled in your crib. The diaper smell was horrible. So the first thing I thought was, I've got to change this baby and clean this crib. The crib was dirty. Then I turned around and saw Jill, and she didn't say a word. She just backed up in her corner, and she was terrified. You weren't as scared as she was. She was more frail. She seemed more frail to me. It could have been because she's a little girl, and she was a little smaller than you. But I could see the fear on your faces. So I cleaned up the cribs, changed your diapers. When I changed your diapers, you had big sores on your bottom, same as your sister. The smell was like you hadn't been changed in a week. That's what it felt like. I mean, the conditions were terrible for a child to even be in. You were dirty. So I cleaned you, cleaned Jill. I changed the linens on the bed, on your cribs, got everything cleaned up. I got you fresh milk, cleaned your bottles out. And when I gave you the milk, it was like you were shocked. I mean, you were so hungry. I mean, the conditions were really bad, Jack, really bad. And back then, we didn't have all this DIFUS and places you could call for child abuse. That wasn't a big issue to a child. I mean, I was a child myself. I knew these things happened, but I wasn't aware of what to do when you come across this.
So you're babysitting quite a bit. So this is nothing. I mean, you know what you're doing. You recognize children that are healthy and things that are normal. So when you see this, what's going through your mind? Are you thinking, "Oh my God, these people are monsters"?
Absolutely. And maybe that's why I reacted so badly, when they came home and they were upset with me, because I saw them as monsters. I saw them as somebody who was abusing those two little babies. And the thing I couldn't understand was that you have two little girls downstairs who are perfectly dressed, perfectly clean, can do what they want, have what they want. And then you have two babies upstairs that are totally neglected. That infuriated me, even at 14. Because I had never run into this kind of situation with my other babysitting jobs. The neighbor next door had beautiful children, well taken care of, and she had 3 of them. And then you have Marie with her babies, and they're treated so badly. I just couldn't understand why she treated the girls differently.
Yeah, none of that makes sense to a logical thinking
Right.
person, right, Susan? Like you clearly are capable of taking care of children well. They were demonstrating that with the 2 older girls. And then seeing the absolute opposite approach to these other 2 children. How do those 2 things exist in the same household? Anybody would have trouble getting their mind around that. When you were in the room with Jack and Jill, did they try to talk to you at all? Did they express themselves in any way? Were they verbal at all?
No, not at all. But I noticed that once I cleaned them up and I was touching them in a loving way, they reacted to that. It was like surprise. They didn't quite know how to take it. I mean, it's a horrible thing to walk into, especially as a kid,
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine. So I do want to say that if we were good-looking babies, we're still good-looking people, which is pretty nice. And once we find Jill, I'm sure she's beautiful. And
Oh,
secondly,
I'm sure.
it sounds like Pitney Village, everything was really close, like the yards were really close and everything, and the people were really kind of close together. Did anybody ever talk about other families and what they saw like around the neighborhood? Did they ever see Jack and Jill?
Well, I asked about Jack and the twins one time after that because I hadn't seen them around. I hadn't really seen Marie doing much around either. I hadn't seen the girls in the yard. And I asked my neighbor, Joan Pileggi, I said about the twins. And she said, well, they gave the babies away. One in either Newark or New York. It's hard to tell the difference when Jersey people talk, whether it's Newark or New York.
For sure.
And the other one in Ohio. So I heard that and I thought, okay, well, the babies are with relatives. That was my first thought, was the babies are with relatives. Because you don't just give babies away. And even at 14, I knew that if a child was not with its parents, it was usually with a relative. But that was the talk in the neighborhood. The talk in the neighborhood was that they gave the babies away.
Did you and your parents ever talk about this? Because I know you said that you left my parents' house really, really upset, and I'm sure you ran home and told your parents, right?
I went right home and told my mother. I said that the baby had a black eye. I said they're not taken care of. And, she says to me, well, it's none of your business. Stay out of it. And back then, early 60s, you listened to your parents. Now, in hindsight, if I were that person now, it'd be a whole different ballgame. There's no way I would let that go. But on top of that, I was still afraid of Gilbert. So, and you live in a mafia-run neighborhood. You don't know who's who or what can happen, So I minded my own business.
Yeah, Susan, let's talk about that for a second. So you knew it was a mafia-run neighborhood, and you were a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure everyone else around the area knew it was mafia-run.
Oh,
I know that my dad Gilbert was in some sort of law enforcement position, and then Nicky Scarfo, who ran the Jersey Mob, had a house right down the street. So did you guys have an idea? Like, you ever talk like with your friends, like, oh, we think he's mafia or he's mafia, stuff like that?
Oh, you knew who was and who wasn't. I mean, some of the kids we knew were involved, like little Nicky Scarfo, his nephew, Phil Leonetti, was like 3 years younger than me. I mean, lived in the neighborhood. So yes, you did know who was who. And the whole neighborhood knew it was run by Nicky Scarfo.
Wow.
So you never knew. I didn't know if your father was involved with them or not,
I was just going to ask that. Did you think maybe my dad was part of something that was nefarious, and maybe that they were just really bad people?
I didn't know if he was involved or not with them. And you don't want to, excuse the French, but, make the wrong people mad, I didn't want to risk that. Because even back then, at that age, you knew what could happen.
Yeah, my first thought there is that there's a lot of intimidation in that neighborhood. There's a feeling of intimidation and of minding your own business, just like your mother told you to. And that was probably wise advice from your mother. At the time, it made you angry and you couldn't understand it, but also she was concerned for the safety of her child as well, I would imagine, considering everyone was aware of how the neighborhood was run.
Yeah, and the times were different too. The times where children were seen and not heard. So whatever we thought didn't matter. Parents ruled, So it was a completely different time back then.
I have to ask a question, and because now that I'm a little bit older, do you see any of Gilbert in me?
No, I don't.
You dodged that bullet.
Dodge
didn't you?
that one. Wow. It's going to be could have been a
No,
bad
I
day.
really don't. I see more of your mother in you. I mean, as far as your features. But I think you're a totally different person from either one of them.
Thank God for that.
You're very
Thank you for that,
welcome.
Susan. You made my day.
And I'm sure
Ooh.
Jill is the same.
I hope we find out very soon.
Oh, I hope so too. You two are so much alike, even in the cribs. And when I recognized you, I can just imagine what she looks like because she has to look so similar to you. I mean, it was amazing how similar you looked. And you were so cute.
Are you blushing,
A
Jack?
little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Just a little.
I knew it was you right away when I saw that picture.
What was your first feeling when his picture came up and you recognized him? What was the first thing you felt?
I said, oh my God, that's Jack. I knew right away. And nobody could tell me any different, you know? I knew that was Jack. And when I notified the FBI and they didn't get back to me, I was really upset. I mean, this child is disappeared, you know, and they never got back to me. And maybe if things had been different, you would have been found sooner.
Now, was that the FBI office in Atlantic City?
No, it was just a number, a contact number. So I don't really know who I was calling other than FBI back then. It was just a number that they put up.
Okay. Susan, this interview is so special to me because I've only talked to maybe 3 or 4 people that have actually seen Jack and Jill together. We have no pictures of Jill. We have hardly any pictures of me during that time. And so to actually hear this firsthand account of someone that was actually there and witness the horror that was going on, this is priceless. And it really helps us kind of hone in on what happened back then and what it led to. And hopefully it'll lead to some closure and getting more answers.
You deserve closure. And the sad thing is there are so many people out there who know what happened and who aren't talking.
Susan, I understand that you've tried to reach out to the Pilegis and see if they would be willing to speak to you about their experiences sharing a wall with the Rosenthals. What has your success been with that? Has there been success?
Zero success. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to Joan Pelleggi again and got no response. I mean, nobody wants to talk, and it's ridiculous. It's how many years ago? There's no need for this silence anymore. It really isn't. All they're doing is making Jack's life harder because he's so focused on doing this. Finding Jill, they could help, and they're not helping.
It speaks to the intimidation factor. Almost 60 years later, people are still feeling that pressure to stay quiet.
Yeah, I guess I understand that being they're still living in that area, but even if I were living in that area, I would be speaking up now because there's been too many years. You know, he deserves an answer. He deserves to find Jill.
So it makes me wonder, was my dad connected to something? Or if he was just a regular guy and Marie was just a regular woman, then maybe someone would have came forward already and said what they knew or helped solve this. But maybe there's a reason why no one's talked about this.
Well, I have a theory on that.
I want to hear it.
I think people know what happened, and I think somehow that it just seems odd to me right now that Paul disappeared. He's replaced with Jack. You have 2 mafias in 2 big cities. You know, to me, I think something happened. I think somebody helped the disappearance of you and your sister. I think there's more to the story. There was so much activity around the kidnapping of Paul. Maybe they just had to replace that baby. And you have twins.
That's a good theory.
What do you do with the other twin? You can't just say one disappeared.
I like it. I think it's a good theory, and I think it's something that we're going to definitely follow up on.
Because you deserve to find Jill. And I think she's out there, Jack. I don't think she's dead. I think she's out there.
Well, just so you know, I've talked to 2 different psychics, and they both said the same thing. So if you believe that,
I
then
can
that's
believe that.
then we're off to a good
You
start.
know? It's what you feel inside.
Yeah.
We're going to keep looking until we find her.
Oh, I'm so glad. Because I want to
Yes.
see you two together.
So, Susan, out of this whole experience, I know that you've taken it with you your whole life, because even when you talk about it, it's like you go back to that moment, and I know it's still fresh. So, what do you have any takeaways from that whole experience that have changed your life a little bit or made things different?
Well, for one thing, I've carried the guilt all my life. I mean, I could have done more. I should have done more. When I was a kid, I didn't know what to do, you know? But it's carried with me my whole life. It's made me a much better mother, I think. It's made me always helping out other children. I used to take in kids off the street into my home, you know, that didn't have a home. So it did make me a better person as far as children. And it still gets me, the fact that you were separated, the fact that you were just abandoned like that. It never should have happened. And I feel guilty because I could have stopped it somehow, but I didn't know who to trust in that kind of a neighborhood, you know?
Well, Susan, I always try to see the good in every situation. And the fact that you've gained something really good out of this whole situation, I hope you don't feel guilty anymore. The fact that you're sharing your story and your experience, and you're actually reliving this for us and with us. The fact that it might have made you a better mom, like you said, or things like that, those are all positive things. So
Oh, sure they are.
I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm really thankful that you've had a great life and that you're here sharing your story with us.
Well, it didn't happen to me, Jack. It happened to you, you know? And I just want to see you reunited with Jill, because you deserve that.
I appreciate that so much, and believe me, you'll be one of the first people I call once we find her.
Oh, please don't forget.
I
It'll be a
won't
joyous
forget,
day,
believe
for
me.
sure.
You showed a lot of courage, Susan, when you recognized Jack on TV and you picked up the phone and called the FBI. That was an incredible amount of courage. You're a very brave woman, especially from where you came
It
from.
still shocks me that I recognized him.
Absolutely. And, coming from that atmosphere of intimidation, and clearly that's all still there as well, that you were brave enough to come forward and say what you knew. So, guilt, I can understand that. And I don't know if there's any way for Jack or myself or anyone else to help you sort of let go of that. But without what you did in 2019, reaching out, he would not be where he is right now without the information that you were able to give. So we are in your debt for that. Thank you.
Susan, I saved your email. Your email was just so straightforward. I think you're Jack. I think I babysat you. Oh my God, I want to talk with you. It was like, so you were like, God bless you. Seriously.
Well, when I first met you at the documentary, Jack, I was in shock. First of all, I wish I had seen you before that initial shock. Because I think I wouldn't have been in such shock. I couldn't even really think at that point. I was just so happy that you were in front of me.
That was a great moment. Matter of fact, you're on my wall right behind me, if you can see the picture right there.
Yep, mine too.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Well, you deserve this. You deserve so much happiness, because I know this has been a long trial for you, your whole life.
Well, thank you. You're making it so much better just being here, and I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. All right, Tracey, any last questions for Susan?
I think she covered everything and did it beautifully. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to meet you in person.
Well, I'm sorry I was so nervous.
You did great. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye, Jack.
So good to see you again, Susan.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Susan.
So, Tracey, what do you think of that interview?
I'm really sort of blown away. First of all, that at all this time later, she is remembering so many details, right down to what you were wearing, the sights, the smells, the sounds. This clearly impacted her on a really deep level. Seeing a baby with a black eye, how awful, how horrible for such a young girl. And we see that, as we've said in prior episodes, how people are affected by your story and being involved in it, whether they're deeply involved or on the periphery, it follows them through their whole life. And her timeline was really amazing for us to really narrow down when this all happened. So it seems that this happened in probably April or so of 1965. Susan did say that she was going to be turning 15 in May, and this was right before her 15th birthday. And the pot belly that she described Marie having is likely a postpartum belly. Your younger brother was born in February of 1965, and so this was 6 to 8 weeks probably after his delivery.
And I was found abandoned July 2nd, 1965, with a black eye. And Susan said that she felt that right after she ran home and told her parents what she witnessed, that horror and neglect, that it wasn't long after that the twins went missing, supposedly sent to other parts of the country to different family members. So that really helps with the timeline of what happened. And the fact that it happened over 60 years ago and she still carries that with her. It's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, her recall was great. And you can tell how it affected her emotionally as well. She still feels all the
Absolutely.
feels all this time later.
All right, so today we kind of covered the beginnings of Jack. But the reason I started this whole journey was to find the real Paul Fronczak, the biological Paul Fronczak. Tracey, what's going to happen next week on the Fronczak Files?
Well, without giving away anything and giving a spoiler, we're going to talk about the real Paul Fronczak next week. So make sure you tune in and find out what we got to say.
You don't want to miss this one.
The Fronczak Files is created and hosted by Paul Jack Fronczak, co-hosted by me, Tracey Hastings. Edited by Gavin Bogner. Lead genetic genealogist, Emily Ripper. Lead historical researcher, Colleen Newhart. Social media manager, Amy Morris. Original theme music written and produced by Paul Jack Fronczak and Rick Howland. Thank you for joining us on the journey, and please remember to subscribe.